Hello and welcome to the Analytics and Automation webinar today. It's all around how to beat the competition using data and automation combined. As a Bullhorn team, you have myself, which is Jay Roberts. I'm a senior account exec here at Bullhorn. My past 10, 11 years have been across recruitment technology. Really, my sole focus is to help businesses understand where recruitment technology is going and how they can profit from it to drive a better client and candidate experience. I've then got my colleague Chris joining us today as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name's Chris Little and I'm the Sales and Strategy Specialist for Analytics at Bullhorn. So my background, I previously worked at Cube 19 for 7 years prior to the acquisition. And yeah, very much looking forward to discussing today how you can put data at the heart of your business to drive your automation strategy.
Thanks, Chris. And then I've got my colleague Lee with us today as well.
Thanks, Jay. Hi, everyone. My name's Lee. I'm a senior solutions consultant at Bullhorn. I work with the sales team to help demonstrate and answer technical queries on Bullhorn products, including analytics and automation. I've worked in the recruitment industry for about 12 years, and the last 8 or 9 of those have been focused with recruitment technology providers. So looking forward to showing you some of the tools today.
Cool. Thanks, Lee. So moving on, we really wanted to look at the why and where the challenges are today when it comes to data. So I think the obvious point is every recruitment business today is using data in some shape or form, whether that's Excel sheets, whether that's business analysts, or even looking at something like Bullhorn Analytics. So 91% of businesses are using data. What we wanted to really focus on today is the second 2 parts that you can see on screen. The middle part, where 50% don't trust their data, and ultimately 13% don't leverage automation to process data. So that's the real kind of golden nugget today that we're really going to focus on. Moving on, we're also going to be looking at things like automation and the automation cycle and how we can combine that with data. So a great example where we're focusing on today is this cycle where you start with more content engagement, leveraging things like ATS data automations, feeding through to happier employees, generating incredible customer and client candidate experience, all the way through to raving fans. We want this automation cycle to feed data and data to feed the cycle to ultimately give you a foot in the door and hopefully a quicker path to revenue for businesses. So when we're looking at automation, there's typically 3 pillars that we often discuss with prospective customers. Productivity, making sure you're in the right time at the right place, providing the right action, which lends itself to giving the right experience, whether we're looking at candidates or clients or contacts, preventing any more black holes, any more human errors, and ultimately taking away that low value mundane tasks. And then the third, probably more for the people with a more operational focus on the call today, is data health. Having an up-to-date database always, making sure that you're staying in contact again with that talent pool that hopefully is being nurtured through things like data and automation. So I'm sure probably everyone on the call today has seen this next slide come in, but here's the rule of automation. And it's very simple. I'm sure we'll probably get questions today around, can we automate this? Can we automate that? But you'll probably hear us say this and think about it. It's if this, then that. So that's the simple rule. So if you do think about automation and where we can automate, I would probably urge you to think about that rule there. Now we're moving on to actually showing you and demonstrating the kind of 3 key examples that we wanted to come up with today.
Yeah, so the first topic we're going to be talking about is how to improve your contract redeployment rate. So by redeployment, we're referring to how many of your contractors or temps who end their assignment does your agency place into their next role. So I would say it's rare companies can accurately tell me what their redeployment rate is. So Lee's going to give you a walkthrough of how analytics and automation combined can identify and, more importantly, protect revenue you're potentially missing out on, so you don't lose your contractors to your competition. So over to you, Lee.
Thanks, Chris. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here with a dashboard in Bullhorn Analytics. And what I'm doing here is I'm viewing data from the whole London office across 12 users that we have there as a manager of that team. And what I can do is I can immediately go down and look at some of my contractor health metrics to start to answer some of the questions that Chris has just addressed. So I can see in this period, for example, that I have 42 contractors ending, but 35 of them are at risk because we potentially don't have something to give them, whether it's a redeployment or maybe even a new assignment at one of our clients at the end of that contract. I can see that I've extended 0 and I've got 7 that are redeployed. So I can start to work out what my redeployment rate is. On the right-hand side here, we can start to get some insights on calls that I might want to make to try and address this problem. We can see that we have 10 finishers where we've had no effort to make an extension, submit them to a new role, schedule them an interview, or place them either at an extension or one of our new clients. And that's resulting in a weekly GP that's going to be leaving our business of about £1,100. So what I can do at that point is I can look in, see who these individuals are, and actually then call these individuals as a matter of priority when I'm addressing this issue of redeployment. But what about if we're seeing this as a constant problem and something that we don't want to just be manually looking at and saying, right, okay, how do we kind of deal with this as it's becoming an issue? How do we get ahead of this problem? Well, what we can start to do is use automation. So at the moment, I have an automation here that's set up based on all of my approved placements. And I can set that automation to basically give me a bit of an engagement process as we come up towards the end date of this contract. So the first thing that I can do is I can send an email to check in with the candidate. I can send notifications internally, which if I show you here, just look like this, showing me that someone is coming up to the end of their assignment as an internal recruiter, as a recruiter at the agency, making me potentially go in there, update that end date, potentially get in touch with them, make sure the information is correct. And then if I go back, you'll see that it keeps going on until we get to an engagement where I basically get in touch with them and ask them if they want to redeploy, if they want to continue working at the contract they're at, or are they actually looking for new jobs in the market? Are they coming to the end of that contract? If they say that they are, we then update their status automatically to being on bench. What we can then do is use another automation to start to find any new jobs in the system that have added and start to match the top candidates that we have on bench based on how relevant they are to the jobs that we bring on the system. Do they actually live in the right radius for this job? And are they part of that criteria of being on bench and ready to be matched? We can, at that point, send a summary round to the recruiter to say these are the best people for their job, or alternatively, take that even further, submit them to this new job we have on the system, and even then contact that individual and tell them that we found a job for them that matches their open requirement. Are they interested? So what you've done there is you've basically automated the whole process from the initial placement start all the way through to putting them on bench because they're not being renewed, and then automating the actual matching of them to their next contract placement.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Look, so for me, redeployment is probably one of the biggest missed opportunities in the global staffing industry. Industry-wide data shows that 2/3 of contractors or temps finishing their assignment are not redeployed into their next role by the firm that placed them in their previous role. Now, this is crazy when you start to think of the hard work and cost that goes into acquiring, screening, and building those relationships out. But unfortunately, it actually gets worse. What we see is nearly half the candidates not redeployed were never even contacted by that firm about their next role. So Lee did a great example there of how contractor health metrics in Bullhorn Analytics give you that real-time insight into the health of your contract book, and how with the help of automation, you can protect gross profit by identifying those candidates that are finishing and then assigning them with those finishing that have been assigned with no additional extra steps. So with Bullhorn Analytics data, we found that there is actually a 50% increase in conversion rate for candidates that have been placed previously. So clearly by nurturing existing talent, you will increase your redeployment rate. Back to you, Jay.
Yes, I think it's a very good segue into the second one. So bit of a rhetorical question for everyone on the call today, but how many candidates do you think are in your database today that are waiting for you to contact them? How many people today have received a job board renewal that's astronomical. Today, the second pillar, we're looking at actually how we can tap into an untapped talent pool, and actually by leveraging your data, telling you where your next step is, and then leveraging things like automation to start a nurturing campaign. So by the end of it, you should hopefully found more candidates that haven't cost you any more money through things like job boards and external resources.
Okay, so we're going to start this one from a slightly different perspective and actually start with an automation. So what I've done here is I've set up an automation in Bullhorn Automation that is going to look at any inactive candidates in my database. So these are people where we've had a submission with them more than 2 years ago, but we haven't actually had any notes against them or any interaction with them in the last 6 months. We know they're good candidates because we previously put them in front of one of our clients, but recently we've not engaged with them at all. And what you can see here is a flow not dissimilar to the one we showed before, where we start to send them emails with our hot jobs and see if they're considered looking at anything that we've got available at the moment, send them some follow-up emails with more positions that would be relevant for them, and then finally send them an engagement, which is a text message, which will try and capture some information and make sure that the information we have on them is correct. So what does that look like from the perspective of a candidate? Well, if I'm on my mobile here, I get a text message saying, we haven't heard from you in some time. Would you be interested in updating your current contact details? I then follow that link through and it takes me to the Acme recruitment website where I can start to look at jobs, but also have a bit of an interaction with a chat bot. And what this will do is it will start to take me through a process of understanding, are the contact details that Acme have for me correct in terms of my email address, but also my phone number? I'm going to say yes to both of those. And then start to get a bit of a sense of what kind of work I'm looking for in terms of the type of work, but also the areas of specialism. I can put in a salary. And all of this information will be captured wherever I want it to be. It could be put directly against my Bullhorn record, for example. But also this experience in terms of the interaction that the candidate has with the bot is completely set by yourself through the engagement. So you can make it as conversational as you like. You can have different branching. So as I answer different answers to these questions, I'm taking down different parts of the chat. And the whole experience is nice and easy for the candidate. They feel like they're speaking to a human being, and all that information that you get from them is captured. But what else can we do? What if we look back at our analytics dashboard? And what we're going to do here is we're going to look at other places where we might get a bit more value out of our database. So we can see here that we have 195 contacts in the London office in the last month that have, 195 candidates that have been added to the database but have not been sent to a job or a contact. So immediately I can start to look at these and think, right, who are these people? Have we got information on them? And can we actually potentially get them to some open requirements we have? But what about taking that a little bit further and looking at some really good candidates? So we've got 19 candidates here that have an interview in the database, but have not been submitted to any other job. So these are likely to be 19 good quality candidates, possibly with qualifications, compliance, certainly relevant skills to the areas we're working with. And in a candidate short market, very difficult to get someone who's quality enough to be interviewed by one of our clients. So how do we maximize the value of this good individual and potentially get them to another client that we're working in the London office?
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris. Yeah,
you.
really quick point here. I think for everyone on the call as well, my third and probably final rhetorical question is, how many people have seen on LinkedIn any negative sort of press from a candidate about the experience that they had with a potential agency? I'm a firm believer in prevention is better than cure here. So what we're trying to do is almost provide a guarantee that whenever a candidate is coming onto your database, they're being interacted with one shape or another, whether that's rejection, whether that's that personal touch, or whether that's progress through the various stages. And I think the end results, which we'll talk to later on in today's call, is really you now have a refreshed candidate or talent pool that is hopefully going to provide more revenue rather than costing you more money because you've had to go outside of your database to find it. Thanks, Chris. After you.
Yeah, thanks, Trey. Yeah, so look, the final topic we're going to cover today is sharpen business development. So how can we guide and assist consultants on what they haven't yet done? So what actions can they take today to be more successful tomorrow? Most data in staffing companies is volume-based. So counts of data and it's only looking backwards. There's always been an over-reliance at the desk level to do more and focus on quantity over quality. When this happens, revenue opportunities can be missed, having a negative impact on both client and candidate. Lee is going to walk through now and show you how you can sharpen business development at the desk level with what we call actionable insights.
Thanks, Chris. So up until now, we've been looking at this dashboard from a kind of office level, looking at our London office. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go down and focus on the individual. So if I'm Zach, one of the first things I will do when I come in each day is I'll look at my analytics dashboard, and I'll immediately start looking at my actionable insights, because this is the place where I can start to see where there's opportunity for me to take action that will potentially increase these numbers at the top and make me money. So there are a number of business development ones here that I can focus on initially. I can see that I've got 5 leads added with no calls. So those 5 conversations I've had where I felt the need to kind of add someone as a lead who could be potentially interesting to me, but I've never actually followed up with a call. The same with live ops. So I've got 5 live ops added within the last 30 days, 5 places where there's potentially opportunity for revenue, and I've not actually put any call against them or done any kind of any follow-up with that. Same with contacts as well, up here as well, 22 people that I can follow up with as a matter of urgency today. But this one here I really want to focus on. If I'm starting to look at business development, if my focus maybe in the market is changing towards business development, and I almost kind of want to get a bit restarted in this, one of the places I could start is 9 companies where I've done a placement with them in the last 12 months, but I've not called them in the last 30 days. So we know that these are good companies that are willing to work with us and have previously bought with us, but at the moment we're not talking to them. And that could give me a number of good individuals that I could put in a pretty warm call to start to see if we can do more work with them. How do we then take that further and focus on automation? Well, how about an automation that starts to re-engage some of our former clients? I have a sales contact-based automation here where the if this is any passive clients that we have where we have a previous placement with them. So these are people that we've previously had success with. They've bought from us in the past, but at the moment they're registered as passive in our database. And what I can do with these is really up to me, but in this particular example, we send them an email reaching out to them, but also after a day, add a task and gives me a task list that gives me a business development list of all the previous lapsed clients I can be calling to start to re-engage and start to do work with.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. The desk level insights that Lee just showed have been designed to guide users on the most valuable actions to take and when, with clients, candidates, and jobs. You can automate lists of actions that consultants haven't yet taken that will make them more successful tomorrow. This ensures that all opportunities are seized, whether that be winning more new and repeat business, improve fill rate of jobs, or my favorite, increase extension and redeployment rate. So I'm going to pass back to Jay to explain what impact this has had to our customers.
Yeah, thank you. I think before we do, we've obviously just shown 3 key examples today, but there's hundreds, if not thousands, where you can leverage data to inform your next automation and vice versa as well. So we want to ensure that by combining the two, you're ultimately quicker to that end goal of revenue or experience for that candidate and client. So as Chris just mentioned, it's all good showing product, but actually what does that mean when it comes to less busy work and hopefully more return on investment for businesses adopting automation and analytics too? So one of our clients, Matt Banbury at Pioneer Selection, gave us this quote in the bottom left hand of the screen. Bullhorn automation is doing 500,000 actions, which if a human was doing it would take them 17,000 hours. That was quite an impressive stat when I first come across it, but actually how do we make this more relevant to everyone on the call today? So if we just assume an average recruiter billings is 185,000 per annum, we're saving per consultant per week 12.75 hours, which is going to roughly, if you obviously can lead the horse to water, but if they do use that time well, can generate an additional close to 60 grand per annum per recruiter. And then we look at the return on investment from analytics and actually giving you an insight into data and how that can help you in essence. So onto the next slide, when we look at analytics and what other clients have done with it, CSE Recruitment saw an average billings increase of 39%, Metro Systems saw a 15% GM boost with 40% less staff. And eHire, probably Chris's favorite one here, was a contractor redeployment rate of 134%. And there's things like Bullhorn adoption as well, especially from Martin Blythe at Searchability, where he's using analytics and he's ensuring that everyone's adopting data to drive their next decision. So as we're coming to the end, on the next slide, we do have a Q&A.